What I do in my lab goes beyond just automation. I do more than automation. But let me show you something that most people never get the chance to witness. Not visitors, not even many engineers. Most people look at this lab and think it's all wires, screens, and systems. But the truth is, more than automation happens here. So I want to talk about an event that happened between me and my boss right in this lab. Before that day, he has been sending me signals but not control system signals. When I joined the lab, my duties were very clear. Design new controls and commission new projects. After I joined the lab, my boss took it upon himself to coach me on a daily basis. I didn't like it, but he insisted that I needed them. First, he started with the basics of controls and automation. I tried to explain to him that I have 12 years of experience. He mentioned that it is the culture of the organization and that he had to do his job in making sure I took the trainings. When I raised my concern, he insisted that the systems I'm employed to control needs thorough knowledge of the basics. But when I reminded him that the reactor plant I'm asked to control requires more than the basics of control systems, he calmly stated that even the reactor plan requires me to understand the entire input and output of the controllers. Then I pushed further to tell him that I don't need 3 weeks to understand the input and outputs of the PLC, but he moved on. So I decided to talk to someone about this. I met with Henry, who is the Deputy Director of Engineering. While in Henry's office, I explained to him my frustration on how the director is treating me in the automation lab. First, Henry asked if I wanted to resign. Of course no, I insisted. I moved down to the city from California having sold my house. That was my feeling when Henry asked me that question. Do you want to resign? Washed over me. Why resignation? Why now? Why such a question from Henry? Is there something he knows? This was the same man who interviewed me, the same man who praised my experience, the same man who welcomed me. Instead of asking why the director was insisting on trainings I didn't need, he jumped straight to resignation. In that instant, 1,000 thoughts rushed through my head, fast, frantic, flashing like warning lights on a faulty dashboard. Was he avoiding something? Was he afraid of something? Or did he already know something I didn't? Henry leaned back in his chair, the kind of slow lean that told me he was choosing his words carefully. Jump. He folded his hands, glanced briefly at the door, and then said something that felt both rehearsed and hollow. But I think it's best you try to work it out directly with him. These things can get complicated. He didn't take a position, but rather offer a smile, the kind that shows he was done talking to me. When I stood up to leave, he thanked me for stopping by as if I had come to discuss a project, not a concern. So a thought began to go over my mind. Should I quit the job? Should I escalate? Should I continue the training? These thoughts continued to go over my mind. What do I do? As I kept walking around in the lab, a part of me said report to management. But I was clueless as to what I'm going to report about. Who will believe me? So I decided to go have lunch and plan for my next line of action. I had barely been at the restaurant for 5 minutes when my phone rang, and guess who was calling me? The Director of Engineering. Said, the training module we are going to take this week will be in the secondary automation lab. My heart began to beat. Right there at the restaurant, I began to search for the contact details of the HR. But wait a minute, the HR is under him. I began to blame myself for selling my house and moving down to this city. I should not have sold my house. I should have not left. On getting back to the office, I decided to go visit the secondary lab the director talked about. The secondary lab looks quite simple and clean. There were few control modules and less drive systems, but I didn't feel okay. Why this secondary lab? Is he trying to do something funny? Why not the regular lab? Why this isolated lab? In that instance, an idea came to me, safety concern. The lab machines were not connected to an e-stop. I had a good case. I went straight to the director's office to inform him. He immediately followed and came to confirm himself. Since this week, training will continue to happen in the regular lab, he stated. I felt happy, but I knew it was far from over. I had wanted to be in the lab till 8 p.m., as I always do in my previous job. But here, getting home, a lot continues to flash over my mind. Does the director want to have an affair with me? Why so soon? Why did Henry sound like that? Why secondary lab for training? Why 3 weeks on control system basic? I decided to forget about everything that happened at work and sleep, but sleep was far from me. I could not sleep. I tried to watch a show, but none was interesting to me. I tried to take a walk, but I lacked the strength to move around. I was weak. I knew I had to talk to someone, but who is best to reach? Before making further moves, I tried to put my thoughts together. Still 10 p.m. in California, I decided to speak to Marvin. In my 12 years of experience, these events seem off to me. What Marvin told me will blow your mind off. I couldn't believe what Marvin was telling me. Are you ready to hear it?